Hi, this short video is to give you a brief overview of how to organize a composition piece. The main focuses of this is going to be your thesis statements, the organizational pattern that you choose, and how to use transitions to move from one part of your composition to the next. In essence, this presentation is about getting from the beginning of the piece to the end. Let's jump in. Thesis statements are the key heart of your piece. A thesis statement sets your reader up to understand what the entire argument is about. All argumentative compositions will have some type of thesis statement. And a good thesis statement will take a stand on the topic, provide an argumentative position, justify discussion of the topic, showing the topical importance, express one single main idea, which helps to focus the reader, and will be specific in order to provide an argumentative overview or a preview of the reasons you'll later give in your paper or composition. For the first project you're working on in this class, a definitional argument, your definition is going to become the main part of your thesis statement, as this is what you are arguing for. When you go to organize the entire composition, there are many ways to do this. The key aspect here is keeping your audience's needs in mind when you consider how you want to organize your composition. Think about the order that you want to present your reasons and how you want to group your evidence. Also think about the document's layout. Do you want to use headings and subheadings? Where do you want to use paragraph breaks? Where do you want to physically arrange things on the page or the website in order to help your reader be guided through the composition in the same order that you intend them to partake in the document? The organization pattern that you choose should assist your reader in understanding your argument. In the next couple of slides, I'm going to talk about two very traditional organizational patterns, classical oration and the Toulmin schema, but please realize that you are not limited to these. You're welcome to combine them, to slice them apart and recombine them how it works for you, or to incorporate other elements. The key here is that you are thinking about your audience's needs as you make these decisions. Classical oration deals with 5 main parts of the composition. The introduction, which will basically provide a hook for your reader, get them interested, as well as introduce the topic. The background, which provides background information that is necessary for your reader to understand the rest of your composition. The lines of argument, which equate roughly to your reasons. The different pieces of your argument that are going to work together to convince your reader of your thesis. Alternative arguments, where you present possible objections that might arise to your argument, and then of course counter those. And a conclusion that wraps up your piece. A second organizational pattern, as a way of thinking through your argument, is the Toulmin schema. This one is less about the actual physical order of pieces and more about the argument structure, making sure that it's well thought through. In the Toulmin schema, you want to think about the claim, which is your argument, as well as any qualifiers, which are limits or exceptions for your claim. Think of these as loopholes for yourself. You want to be careful never to make absolute statements, such as always or never, because even one instance that counters your argument would then disprove it. So make sure that you provide yourself a little bit of wiggle room through qualifiers. You will also have reasons, which are support for your claim, and warrants. Warrants can be somewhat difficult to understand, but these are the underlying assumptions that have to be shared by both the author and audience for the audience to then be convinced of the argument. Let's take an example to help you understand this. I have a basket of apples. I hand an apple to someone else out of this basket. They take a bite and they die. I hand another apple to someone else. They take a bite they also die. If I hand you an apple, the logical conclusion is that you do not take a bite. Why? Because you would die. The evidence for this, the backing here, is the fact that you have two examples to go off of. That's going to be the support. Your claim is you should not take a bite of the apple. There probably isn't going to be a lot of qualifiers here. Maybe the apple that comes out of the basket might be one. You're specifying an apple. The reasons, well, you don't want to die. The apple kills you. Those are reasons that you wouldn't do that. But the warrant is that you don't want to die. Now, in this example, reminiscent of Snow White in a way, the idea of the warrant is so obvious that it doesn't need to be stated explicitly. But in other times, the warrant is more based on the values that people hold, in which case you're going to need to be more specific about them. And if you do need to be more specific, you may need to have backing, which is evidence that will then support the warrant. Okay, with these two organizational patterns in mind, remember that you don't need to adopt either of them as is. You are welcome to play around with the organization, and I encourage you to do so. Make the organization work for your audience, for your purpose, and for your unique authorial style. One other important aspect of organization is moving a reader from one idea to the next. Often, especially in text-based documents, this means moving between paragraphs. In order to do this, we use transitions. Transitions are the connecting pieces, often sentences, within the composition that prepare the reader for what comes next when there's a change or shift in topic. In a written composition where it's text-based, this is usually a sentence, something that comes at the end of one paragraph or the beginning of the next. In different modes, you might be using different types of transitions. For example, PowerPoint itself as a program has a transitions feature where you can do different slide transitions to signal you're changing from one slide to the other. This is a type of transition specific to the PowerPoint medium. Prezi, similarly, has its own set of transitions. A website might have its own set of transitions as you flick from one tab of the website to the next. So as you put together your piece, think about the type of transition you'll be using, but keep in mind that regardless of what that transition physically looks like, a good transition moves the reader from point A to point B. That's the goal. But a great transition is not only going to move them from point A to point B, but it will connect the ideas and the topic at point A to the ideas and topic at point B and give a sense of what their relationship is. Perhaps your second point is expanding upon your first, or perhaps it's challenging it. We often call these transitional phrases, things that you might say like, on the other hand, or in comparison, or additionally, or furthermore. These words and phrases signal what the relationship between the ideas are. So, with that, I hope that this has helped you figure out a little bit more about organizing your paper. And as you start to work on your draft, I hope that you implement some of these ideas to help create a well-organized composition that will guide your reader through your argument and help strengthen what you are trying to convince them of.